Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call us to order, if that's all right. I know why you're all here. You know why you're here. There isn't much need for an extended introduction. You all know Mike Murphy, who has been so involved in the life of this parish for many years. And some of you, I know, will remember his late father, Bob, who was a quiet, gentle soul. I'm kidding. Anyway, so Mike, as everybody knows, is going to be our second Easter People presenter this year, following Mary Johnson last week. I will turn things over to Mike, and again, if you're joining us virtually, if you have any questions or comments, I'll be monitoring on my phone in just a couple of minutes. So please make a comment there and let me know, and I'll put Mike on the grill. So without any more delay, Mike Murphy.
Hey. What he did say is I'm hooked up to a buzzer system here. I'm going to turn it on here because that's for the...
Yeah, but they got to hear you too, pal.
Hey, guys. Whoa. Yeah, it's like Mary last week. Don't mic me. So anyways, hey, good morning. I've got a thing that I've written, and I'll just give you some segue to it. It was a cathartic experience, being asked to be an Easter person, but then writing down my thoughts. I could have written stories upon stories upon stories, and you guys would have been eating dinner here, but I thought that probably wasn't a good thing. So, and if you guys don't mind, I'll just read from what I wrote so I don't get too lost. And if I need windshield wipers for my inside of my glasses, just bear with me. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Mike Murphy. Jason just introduced me. Welcome to week 2 of the Holy Comforter Easter Person series. Mary will be a hard act to follow, but I'll try to do my best. Thank you, Mary, for your awesome presentation last week. When Jason called and asked me to be one of this year's Easter people, my first thought was, geez, they must be desperate. I initially told Jason, let me think about it. It took less than a minute for me to call him back and tell him I would be honored. So here goes. Let me first say that preparing for an Easter person kept me up a few nights. You start to replay your life as you remember it and identifying meaningful events and then thinking about how God was present. I will just say being an Easter person for me personally was an opportunity to reflect on my life up to this point. It also helped me to realize how important family and friends have been for me on my journey of life and faith. I was born February 1959 in the Edgewater Hospital in Chicago to Bob and Hazel Murphy. At the time of my birth, we were living in Morton Grove. I was the third of 3 children. My oldest brother, Brian, was born in 1955, and my sister Luann was born in 1957. I was baptized by Reverend Calvin Robinson September 20th, 1959, at the First Methodist Church in Glenview. My godparents were Ed and Barb Forrester. The sermon that day was, "What Premier Khrushchev Can Do for Us." Also, the high school youth group met that Sunday night to watch a 1-hour film, The Burden of Truth, which documents racial discrimination in America. Let me remind you, this was 1959, and this is what the high school kids were watching. We still have a long way to go. Baptism was my formal invitation to being a Christian, though at the time I did not realize it. In 1967, I was 8 years old, and we moved to 408 Central in Wilmette. It was a great house in a wonderful neighborhood and so close to the beach. We joined Wilmette Methodist Church on Lake Street. The minister was Reverend Bert Randall. My family was always involved in church. The entire Murphy family was also involved in scouting. In many ways, church and scouting were intertwined. Both gave me beliefs and values that I have used my whole life, from the 10 Commandments to the Scout Oath and motto. handsome bugger. There was no shortage of me getting into trouble. Lord, it's a surprise to no one. Lord only knows how many times my parents must have thought, where did we go wrong? I was rather rebellious at an early age. Looking back, I would say I was full-spirited. Oh, there was the time I threw a snowball at a car and scared the bejesus out of the lady driving. I was able to run and ditch the cops. When I got back to school from lunch at home, guess who was waiting at my locker? Officer Friendly and my teacher. I remembered tears flowed and slap on the wrist, and that was about it. How about the time my buddies and I were putting firecrackers in marshmallows and chucking them off the parking roof at Jewel on Green Bay Road? Who passes by but the Evanston police? Oops. Were these God moments? Nah, I was just a goof. I was at best an average student who just liked to have fun. I played Little League baseball and excelled in basketball, though I was vertically challenged. In 8th grade, I was confirmed by the Reverend Burt Randall at the Methodist Church, and my father wrote me the following letter. But before I read that, this is just kind of who I was. If you can't see it, in junior high, I was, and this is a short haircut, I believe. So my father wrote this letter for my confirmation, and he was at the Diplomat Resorts and Country Club in Hollywood, Florida. Dear Michael, this note will reach you just before you're confirmed in the church. I wish I could be with you Sunday in body. I will be with you in spirit. It's so easy for a 13-year-old to regard confirmation as just another grown-up formality, and perhaps that's what the ceremony is. But the confirmation of your belief in Jesus Christ, however lightly you may take it, will stay with you and between you and God all the rest of your life. There may be ebbs and tides in your faith, but God is always with you if you'll have Him. Your mom and I are terribly proud of you, and I love you every minute, and we love you every minute of our life. Don't forget that during the times we're disappointed in you, when you do less than your best, or get mad at you because you just plain do wrong, we love you through our anger, and are angry because we love you. So congratulations on your confirmation Sunday. God bless you, and Dad loves you. Dad. Yeah, telling, right? So anyway, this was a God moment, and even more so when I pulled this out of the safe and I was trying to dig through old stuff and read it. I thought it was like, wow, kind of like, this is what they thought, right? So as an adult, you look back at this. As was evident from this letter, my father traveled a lot. During my high school years at New Trier, things were not that great. My father left my mother during my freshman year. My mother was the sweetest person that you ever met. Her mother passed away giving birth to my mother's younger sibling, and her father, who was a celery farmer, had to pass the kids off to relatives because he could not properly raise them. My mother's early years were spent on a reservation in Canada with my Aunt Gladys and Uncle Ike. She moved in with another aunt and uncle in Ravenna, Ohio for high school. After high school, my mother attended Kent State University. My father was born into an affluent household. He went to Culver Military Academy and Northwestern University. My mom was a stewardess, and my father a salesman for Parker Penn when they met and married. My mother was diagnosed with cervical cancer my sophomore year of high school. When my mother got sick, my father moved back. My mother and my father took many trips to Sloan Kettering in New York. My sister took a break from college to help care for me and my mother. My mother died shortly after my high school graduation. I was in denial. She was 48 years old when she died. This is a story that my father shared 6 months before my father died, written June 14th, 1977, to my children. Your mother told me a story yesterday, which I think each of you should have. She met a lady when she first checked in last week. This was an elderly lady, a volunteer, the flower lady. When she took Mom the flowers we sent She was so sweet, your mom was crying. They prayed together, talked together, and by the time she left the room, Mom was feeling much better. The next day, she came in again and told your mother a very touching story. One of her friends was a nurse at Sloan Kettering at the children's floor. This nurse, Kathy, had a very special little friend, Mark, a 5-year-old with no chance to live, but he just kept on fighting it and he wouldn't go. One day, Kathy had a long talk with him about dying, and she told him, wait, time out. You see, I get sort of blurry-eyed here, and I have a hard time reading. Hold on, time out. Just going to find it. One day, Kathy had a long talk with him about dying, and she told him very much the same story that your mom told Jan Sidler from church. You may remember it. She had bought a little glass butterfly for her. When Mrs. Sidler and Mom were alone, she asked Hazel, "Tell me the truth. Do you believe there is life after death?" Your mom gave her the little butterfly and answered, "The death of a caterpillar brings life to a butterfly." And I want you to have this piece of glass to remember that. Kathy told little Mark the same story, and Mark's answer was to tell Kathy that he was afraid to die because his mommy and daddy would be mad at him and wouldn't love him anymore. Kathy went to the parents and told them they had to give Mark peace of mind because he was suffering too much and was ready to die except for the fear of hurting his parents. That same night, his parents went to him, first his mother, then his dad. His mother sat with him in a rocking chair, hugging and loving him, and sang him his favorite lullaby. She then told him she wouldn't be mad at him if he were to die, but would love his image forever. Then his dad came in. He tended to be brusque and undemonstrative, but he told Mark pretty much the same thing, loved him, and left. Mark died within the hour. His parents didn't call Kathy because she had worked a 24-hour shift and knew she would be sleeping. The next morning when Kathy awakened, she went out in her backyard to greet the day. As she stood there, a beautiful little butterfly flew by her face, then again, and then a third time. Kathy immediately knew somehow that Mark had died, which she then confirmed with the hospital. The next morning, Shirley, the flower lady, brought your mother 3 tiny bone china butterflies. That afternoon, she brought a little stuffed caterpillar to join Mom's frogs on the TV set. Your mother thinks God sent Shirley to her, and it was only her first week at work. And we both think Shirley is something special. Love, Dad. Wow. So, my high school years were pretty much unsupervised. The mid-'70s were kind of a wild time. The Vietnam War was winding down and society was changing. For example, Gilson Park was overrun with Hell's Angels and lots of drugs. Those of you that didn't live in Wilmette back then, you'd never know that, but it was that was the way it was. There was virtually no police presence, and I was told later by a Wilmette officer that there wasn't much they could do. This was a recipe for disaster. I was on a first-name basis with the truant officer at New Trier, Mr. Gober. I spent a lot of time at Breakfast Club. I thought this was a great club where they served breakfast and you did homework. Side note, Megan, I'm not throwing you under the bus here. She got one Breakfast Club like for crossing through a door she wasn't supposed to go through. I was so proud when she came home and told me. Thank heaven, New Trier had a work-study program that I took advantage of my junior and senior years. I attended classes in the morning and worked at Jewel in the afternoons. Graduation happened, and there was no way I was going to college. School was just not my thing. My father worked for a small housewares company named Faucet Queen. I worked in shipping and receiving during the summers in high school. I jumped at the opportunity to work full-time. While my friends were off at college, I was making money. All good. In my early 20s, I learned to scuba dive and visited many places in the Caribbean. We would do at least 2 dive trips a year. When I was about 25, I went on a 3-week sailing adventure to the Greek islands with some friends. This trip almost caused me to be a sailing bum, but then reality set in. Bill Davis and I vacationed in New Zealand for a couple weeks before Sue and I got married. So life was going pretty good, right? When I was 21, the plant manager at Faucet Queen never returned from vacation. Well, this was my opportunity of a lifetime. At age 21, the owner agreed, and I was plant manager in charge of 50 workers, production, inventory, purchasing, everything. Thanks be to God. This was the only company I worked for as an adult, 33 years. The owner's son joined the company and brought energy to the 60-year-old company. When I started, we had 15 items with sales of $600,000. When I left at age 50, the company had grown to over 700 items and $38 million in sales. We sold carted hardware to almost every grocery and drugstore in the country. The company was purchased from the family by Masco Corporation, a multi-billion-dollar company, and my career took off. I was made director of purchasing, then director of operations. Masco recruited me to join many different groups within their organization. The fact that I had not attended college did not change what I had learned through experience. Imagine a guy who loved to travel getting paid to do it. I traveled Asia and Europe extensively. The company allowed Sue to join me and picked up the tab on a couple trips to Europe. Also, every other year I would use mileage to fly Megan, Sue, and I to different places in Europe, Hawaii, and Mexico. My company was very generous and let me stay in 5-star hotels and fly business class. I worked hard and I played hard. My job afforded me time to schmooze a lot. I'm pretty good at schmoozing, I'd say. When in China, I would always leave and visit tourist sites. The Great Wall, Guilin, the Terracotta Warriors had just been uncovered in Xi'an when I went there, where a colleague of mine got his master's degree at the university in Xi'an. We ate some really good food. I said fine dining, but no, I ate like a king. Life was great. Back in the late 80s and the 90s, there were not many Americans running around the countryside of China as I was. Most buyers would come to Hong Kong and the people would come to their hotel rooms, and I was the guy that wanted to go out and meet all the mayors of the towns, and it was like to have an American come to these podunk towns was like a big event kind of thing, and it was pretty cool. Let's see here. I love to learn how things were made and love to meet new people. No surprise there, right? Most of the people I worked with in China did not speak English, but I found that a warm, genuine smile was all that was needed for trust and friendship. For the record, I always had a translator with me for technical stuff. One of my roommates when I was 25 and 26 was a guy named Bill Davis. We had met at a friend's party and became fast friends. We had a bunch of coincidences in life and thought we were brothers from a different mother. Bill and I would go to church at Fourth Pres occasionally. This tie into Mary last week. One Easter, Bill's mother, Laura Davis, and grandmother Olga Moore joined us at Fourth Pres. The ladies would point out the girls they thought we should be with. Bill's mom and grandma are both interned here at Holy Comforter. Bill taught me many things about life. Bill is a kind and compassionate person who really cares about people. Bill is full of love. The one thing I never really learned from Bill was being a punster. Sorry, Bill. Today, Bill and his family are like one family with the Murphys. Megan is like the god sister to the sisters, but I think, honestly, they're just sister. We're all one big happy family. Enter the most important chapter and godly moment in my life, Sue. She is a saint. Sue and I met at St. Francis at a wedding. She was invited by the bride's mom that she worked with at the Mart, and I was invited by, I guess, both the bride and the groom. Neither one of us were quite sure why we were invited. To this day, we both know that this was God's intervention. I was sitting with a group of friends and poked one of my buds and said, "See that woman? I'm going to marry her." Well, I met up with her at the reception, chatted, and asked for her phone number. Probably jotted it down on an old napkin or something. Our first date was the Hawks game, and both of us had a great time. Sue did wonder if I was any good at math. I had just attended my 10th high school reunion, and she had been to her 20th a few years earlier. We dated for about a year, and we loved each other to the ends of the earth. I made a reservation at Cafe Bernard in the city and dropped to one knee and asked if she would marry me. She said yes. Oh, hush, Sue. I hear you in the back. Neither one of us could eat after that. My father had given me my mother's engagement ring for Sue, a symbol of my love. On January 21st, 1989, we were married at the Glenview Methodist Church by Burt Randall, the church I was baptized in by the minister that confirmed to me, this is God. In just 6 months, we just purchased a house in Wilmette where we still live. On October 7th, 1989, God blessed us with a baby girl. Megan, God is great. Life rocked. Sue and I had always wanted a baby girl, and here she was, God's gift. Megan had just turned 1, and my father died suddenly of a heart attack. Dad had been married to Nancy Ford for about 10 years. Many of you knew Nancy as she was a longtime member here at Holy Comforter. Dad had become incredibly involved with Holy Comforter. When we went back to Dad and Nancy's after the hospital, the outpouring of love from parishioners of Holy Comforter blew us away. Nell Cox, Nancy Lovely, I think you were there, and others that I do not remember. Well, we needed a church. Sue was an Episcopalian. Here we come, Holy Comforter. Next up was Megan's baptism on All Saints' Day, 1991. Sue and I both taught Sunday school, and Megan was in Mrs. Claddy's class learning the Lord's Prayer. Gretchen, Quinn, and Sue started ATB&B, and we were all in. I taught Sunday school for about 10 years. My favorite was junior high and high school. Right, Tommy? I think this was my chance to go back. We would learn together about God's teachings. We would do lock-ins, and we'd learn about each other. We would do retreats to meet others in the same faith. We would volunteer at the soup kitchen, and we would play. If you ask any of the kids that were in Sunday school while I was teaching, my guess is they would all say it was fun. Holy Comforter is our family, each and every one of you, even if the only time together is in church, and I mean that. Megan loved nature, adventure, dance, acting, music. She sang, played piano and cello, sports, friends, and school. Sue and I brought different things to parenting. Together, we did this. Every day since we've been married and have been parents is an unbelievable blessing. Watching Megan grow into the woman that she is makes me immensely proud. Megan attended DePauw University and graduated with a music ed degree. Megan started teaching in Indiana and soon after met Rob. Friends at first turned into love. Last September, Megan married her best friend and the love of her life, Rob, with Jason officiating in a small ceremony at our lake house in the UP. Where's Jason? Thanks, brother, wherever you are. Thanks, Jason. We are so thankful to have such a great son-in-law. Bill Davis would invite me to his family cabin at Witch Lake in the UP in our 20s, and then our family would come. Witch Lake has been in our soul ever since. When Megan went off to college, I stepped back from the 9-to-5 work scene, and a house became available on Witch Lake, and we bought it. Some of you guys might be thinking, what the hey was he thinking? There is only about 20 houses on the lake, and it's a very pristine lake. I think of it as the closest. Jason, what's the Iona, Scotland, is the closest place to heaven for you? I think Witch Lake is like one of those closest places to heaven.
And Wrigley Field.
And Wrigley Field. Yeah, now that they've got a world championship, yeah. So anyway, come on now. Having a lake house on the lake you love with your brother from a different mother, God has his hands in this too. We are so grateful that Megan and Rob now live in Park Ridge. And as of last Thursday, Megan and Rob are now proud homeowners in Park Ridge. Rob works for a metals company in Palatine, and Megan teaches elementary music in Skokie. Megan's faith has never wavered. Here we are 31 years later, and Megan and Rob are members of Holy Comforter. Not only is Megan a member, she's involved and on the staff as our Director of Youth Arts Ministry. We are so enormously proud. I turned 50, and Megan went off to college. What now? We had just bought a lake house that needed lots of work, and I started a consulting business in selling. I realized that consulting was work. Four-letter word in my book. And selling was rather good at generating income. Mostly what I do as it relates to business is sell, and it's a part-time gig for me. Something was missing. I wanted to volunteer and give back. When I was young, my mother would volunteer at Head Start and take me. This stuck with me. In my 20s, Fourth Presbyterian ran a tutoring program for students from Cabrini Green, and I was involved with that program for a few years. Enter Sandy Rex, who joined Holy Comforter as a deacon. Sandy was involved with a ministry serving the homeless on Lower Wacker Drive in Chicago. I had always had this dream that if I won the lottery, I wanted to open the best damn soup kitchen in the city. Well, this was the next best thing. Ann Barrett was involved, and I asked her if I could join her, and she agreed. My first night was a real eye-opener, visiting the homeless in the middle of the winter when they are sleeping on the cement with very few possessions, if any. I would go home and just about cry. For about 6 years, I've had the privilege to serve with this ministry. When Sandy left for North Carolina, I picked up the reins. We have many from Holy Comforter who have served alongside and from other places. It is so fulfilling and humbling to be able to witness what we do. Every Monday, we cook and serve between 50 to 80 meals, although it's down now because of COVID and stimulus checks. In addition to a hot meal and beverage, we provide coats, blankets, socks, underwear, body wipes, clothing, and most importantly, we provide love. We work out of our cars, and we visit each of our guests where they reside. So many of the people we serve are people that are chronically homeless and have been serving them for years. My involvement with Kumali has been extremely rewarding. Not only do I get to do what I love, provide comfort and love to those in need, but also get to meet like people serving. I cook with Scott Olson in the kitchen and serve with Ann Barrett and her kids, Lauren Marwell and her kids, Steve Ford and his daughters, Bill Davis and his daughters, Dick Morley, Eric Beatty, Tina Harlan, Rich Campitelli, Sue Murphy, Megan, Steve Pope, Heath and David Jones, and Quinn McClamrock, just to name a few. There are so many others. Additionally, we have so many angels that donate coats and blankets from our church and other churches. One sweet angel from Holy Comforter, Kinsey Warmus, collected money from her friends and had her mom buy blankets for Kamali. We have a Catholic church in Mount Prospect that crochets sleeping pads out of plastic bags. In Lincolnshire, a family collects sleeping bags and blankets, and the list goes on. I probably missed some stuff, but whatever. My eyes and heart seeing all the volunteers serving and the clients receiving are an awesome feeling. This is witnessing God's true love. Every moment that I'm serving, whether it's writing grants, serving food, picking up blankets and coats, all of it, I know this is what God has called me to do. I'm so grateful for the support of Holy Comforter and the people who help. I could have written for days about my journey. I see God in everyone and everything. We are all Easter people. Go forth in this world to love and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God. Amen. Woo, doggy, I'm off the hook for a long time now.
I just want to thank Mike for being our Easter person this morning. I know many of you have served in this capacity. If you haven't and are interested in offering your journey, in subsequent Easter seasons, certainly please let me know, let Keith know. We're always on the lookout for people with, as is the case with Mike, poignant, unique, all of our stories are unique and poignant. But if you'd like to be an Easter person and you haven't, please let us know, and we'll start planning for 2022 and 3 and 4 and beyond.
And I can add to that. It was really, I mean, I say it's a cathartic experience, but when you go through and you know, first it was like a month ahead of time, right? Or whatever it was, 6 weeks. And you start thinking about, you know, like we all go through life and you think about stuff. You think about, oh, the time when, the time when, the time when. And when it's actually when you have to, like you're asked to be this person that says, you know, try to put your life sequences together and how God was active in it. It's a very cool experience to be able to sit there. You know, obviously you don't remember when you're baptized, right? But like when you start having these memories, which are, by the way, my sister remembers things different than I do. As I read this to her, she's like, Mike, that's not how it happened. I'm like, dude, whatever. But anyway, so it is a very cool experience to be able to think of your life and be able to write things down. And obviously, this was PG-13. We're in church. There's a whole lot of stuff I didn't go down.
Okay, I'm going to take the mic back.
So anyway, it's pretty cool. So if you have the opportunity, I strongly recommend even thinking about your life, being able to document it and write it down. It brings back thoughts. And as Sue said, it gives an opportunity to kind of like let that stuff go shush away. You know, stuff that you kind of hide in your brain for a long time and you get to put it out in writing. It's like, it's gone. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. See you next week or before.
That